Perhaps one of the most famous of all ghost towns is Centralia, Pennsylvania. This is thanks in part to the video game and movie series that inspired Silent Hill. No, you will not find bubble-headed nurses or giant executioner-style pyramid-headed monsters. Although if you spend enough time in the city center huffing the carbon monoxide that bellows up from the endless fire burning under the earth, you might start to be plagued by nightmare creatures of your own subconscious. White ownership of this area that is today known as Centralia dates back to 1793. That being said, nothing was done with the land for over 40 years. In 1841, Jonathan Faou built the Bulls Head Tavern. It's interesting to note that Faust did not own the land on which this tavern and hotel was built. And by many accounts, he didn't even own the lumber in which he used to build it. No one really seemed to care about the fact, and the town of Bulls Head was born. Oh, the days when you could just piss on a plot of land and say, that's mine now. The next evolution of the town and the first name change came with Alexander Ray. Ray was a civil and mining engineer for the Locust Mountain Coal and Iron Company. By 1854, the Mine Run Railroad was complete, mining began, the town was platted, and roads were built. Ray renamed the town Centerville, believing it would become the center of anthracite coal mining. With the construction of a post office in 1865, the town got its second name change. The state already had a Centerville. To avoid confusion, it needed to change its name to Centralia. Although I keep calling it a town, it got its final status the following year when it was incorporated as a borough. For those that aren't familiar with this term, a borough is a self-governing municipal entity in places like Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New Jersey, and more. AKA what the rest of the world calls a town. Moving on. It is of strange note to history that Alexander Ray was murdered on his way home to Centralia one morning by members of the Molly Maguires. They came across Ray's carriage and assumed he would be carrying the week's earnings. He was not. That being said, the men didn't want to be caught. They murdered Ray on the spot and took what little he had. Almost immediately following the murder, 4 men were arrested. Thomas Donahue, John Duffy, Michael Pryor, and Patrick Hester. 3 of the 4 went to trial and were found innocent. All were set free. Years later, however, guilt got the best of one of the men involved, and Daniel Kelly confessed. But Kelly was not going down alone. He pointed the finger at Peter McHugh, Patrick Tully, and once again, Patrick Hester. The 3 men were hanged for their crimes on March 25th, 1878. That being said, many of the Irish-American activists that made up the Molly Maguires were hung for various crimes around this time. The validity of these crimes is still a matter of debate to historians. But this is a story for another day. As interesting as these tales are, they have little importance to why Centralia is today a ghost town. At the town's peak in the 1890s, it was home to 2 theaters, 5 hotels, 7 churches, 27 bars, a bank, a post office, 14 general stores, and 2,800 people. That's a ratio of 103 people per saloon. If it wasn't for a Memorial Day preparations in 1962, this would probably be the end of the story. Centralia would be just another coal mining town forgotten to history. Everything changed for Centralia, however, on May 27th, 1962. Firefighters were burning debris at the local landfill. Every time they put the fire out, it would get reignited. This is when it was discovered that the landfill was sitting on an old strip mine, and that the burning ignited the coal beneath the earth. There were many attempts to stop the burning early on, but as the fire spread, containment became more and more expensive. The fire spread faster than bureaucracy. By 1984, carbon monoxide was leaking into the homes, infrastructure was crumbling, and it was becoming unsafe to live in the community. Most citizens accepted buyout options from the government and left their homes behind. But others fought to stay in their homes. But in 1992, Pennsylvania claimed land by eminent domain, but after many more legal battles, finally decided in 2015 to allow the remaining citizens to live out the remainder of their lives in the borough. The fire burns to this day and is expected to burn for at least another 200 years.